Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré cœur rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige. Lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15. Greetings, one and all, and welcome to the 47th episode of God is Not White. My name is Jafre Kaiti, and I greet you from Ottawa, Gatineau, the capital of Canada. And we are in for another night of discussion on a topic that is of interest to many, and I must say of a number of people who perhaps 10, 20 years ago were not thinking of the subject. What we deal with in this program is the relationship, the increasingly uneasy relationship that people of African descent have with Judeo-Christianity. And we put it in the context of all of what's happening in our world today. And so tonight, we are asking a question with regards to what is in the news with regards to what some have termed basically the end of Western civilization, or at least a serious blow to what was once considered basically accepted norms of leadership, morality, and all of that. No, we are not exaggerating. And so the title for tonight is Life After the Saints Have Fallen. For indeed, the scandal that we are living these days involves folks who are considered the elite and the people that many looked up to. And when this is happening, it is time to take stock of where we are and wonder what will be our next reality and how do we forge it together so that that next reality is better than what we have left behind. Okay, so with that, you are familiar with the fact that this program builds on my book Vive Bon Dieu à bas religion, which translates literally Praise God Down with Religion, published in Haitian Creole in the year 2000, dealing with the subject as I've described it, how we have been negotiating the fact that we are people of African descent and we are practicing a belief system that is counter to much of what we consider sacred. How did this happen, and what do we do about it? That's essentially what this program is about. All of the shows, the 46 other episodes, are on the website. Whether you type jafricaiti.com or godisnotwhite.com, it will lead you to the same website. And there is a button on the website, God is Not White, where you go there and you will see the various programs, starting with the most recent. And so, we've dealt with our understanding of the concept of God, religion, etc. And so, this evening, life after the saints have fallen is, of course, dealing with all of these scandals that are um, keeping us very much awakened at night, and it seems to be an ever-ending litany of you know world leaders, Western world leaders, who are involved in, I don't know how you describe these activities, evil, 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 evil. All right. And of course, the most important thing to note here is that there hasn't been a trial. Most of the folks that we're talking about here have not faced judgment. And so we're talking about allegations. But precisely, the question is why some folks seem to have the ability to escape uh, judicial systems for things that others, you know, rot in jail. So the first question we are asking tonight is whether Western elites erred by veering away from righteous Judeo-Christian roots. Okay, Christian values. We've heard that again and again. And here, just an example from a website that is collecting funds for um, missionaries abroad, and usually abroad means a non-white nation. And they speak about these great values such as generosity, courage, love, respect, hope. These are the elements that they portray as being the Christian values. And of course, they're asking money for some child that is, malnourished or, housed improperly in some other non-Western country. Uh, you know, we've all seen those things. In fact, there was a time when these TV programs were more prevalent, or maybe it's because I used to watch them more. But I think you have less of these televangelists or these TV advertisement to save a child in Africa, save a child in Haiti, save a child in Guatemala with very little money. You can do this, and again, it's this idea that the Western world, the Christian Western world, is generous. Therefore, they're going to the land of the heathen. This is what missionaries, explained during the whole time of racial slavery and colonization, that they were actually going there to help their less privileged people. And this was but until very recently. And in fact, the missionaries are still collecting lots of money by presenting themselves in such a manner. This is happening at the same time that we are getting these disgusting revelations that are filtering through the Epstein files involving the elites. And you will see why this is connected to Christian religion in particular. Of course, in previous episodes, we talked about how the white Christian nationalists are directly intertwined with the government of or the regime of Donald Trump, but it goes far beyond that. So the filth, the decadence that we are observing with the Epstein Files scandal touch the ruling elites of Western Christian world. And we wonder whether there is any end to these revelations that are coming day in, day out. And so if even, let's say, 50% of what is being discussed in the mainstream media and especially on social media these days was to be true, clearly the question must be asked. Are we dealing with a group of people who were really generous, really courageous, really loving, really respectful, and spreading hope, that lost their way? Like somebody put wrong information on the GPS, and they got astray. Is this what happened? Okay, let's take a look to see what really happened here. So we are asking those competing there's questions, okay, to see those two theories. So we're first looking at this idea of whether uh, Western elites erred by veering away from those righteous values that we talked about. Clearly, what we are observing with the Epstein files is that presidents, okay, President of the United States, the current President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, former presidents of the United States, many of them. Sometimes there's even confusion whether a certain scandal involves Papa Bush or Baby Bush. Um, and Bill Clinton, certainly, who is nicknamed Bubba. All kinds, and many of them are of sexual nature, but it gets even worse than that. Presidents, princes, princesses, prime ministers, leading scientists, entertainers, Nobel Peace laureates, including Saint Mother Teresa. All of them have fallen from the pedestal. Of course, yeah, no judgment yet, but in public opinion, it is very difficult today to find folks who genuinely trust the elites that are ruling many countries, especially the United States. And here we're not talking about a political party or a small group of people. We're really talking about a large group of people, both Republicans and Democrats and independents, including some heroes, right? Uh, um, of what they call leftist, thinking. I'm thinking about Noam Chomsky, named in the Epstein files. Of course, some of these folks have gone on record saying that no, their names are being mentioned, but it's a coincidence. They were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing wrong was done, etc., etc. But once you start looking through the piles, it's clear that there's something absolutely terrible in those files, and the fact that they're being suppressed and released very carefully with heavily redacted pages and etc. But we are talking about some of the most vulnerable people, children, young children, vulnerable children who are being abused and in some instances killed by powerful men and women. These are the accusations. And like I said, it has left the realm of just US elites to get people like the Princess of Norway involved. Here we learn that she spoke to Epstein about her son's wallpaper, where she is said to have asked Epstein, the convicted pedophile who they say killed himself, for pictures of naked women for her 15-year-old son. Again, this is just an example of how, if these allegations are true, okay, we're talking about folks who are so imbued of the power and impunity that they enjoy that something as trivial as this they would do without worrying that it might get out. Like it was just taken as a given that it would never blow up the way it is blowing up these days. So there are many reactions, different reactions. There are people who are outraged, some behaving like teenagers who've just discovered their parents have flaws, so they are angry. Others have yet to graduate from stubborn and irrational denial. Usually they identify these as the MAGA crowd, but really I think it's much, much more than that. In fact, one of the behaviors that you will see, for instance, on many of the Democrat websites, they're still trying to isolate this as, oh, the bad Republicans have done this. No, no. There are names of Democrats and Republicans in that list, and these are not new revelations. We've seen scandal after scandal, and there's been, like, just the Clinton family alone. For years, there's been speculations, accusations, reports, etc. The question is this a departure from what has been practiced in the past? Okay. Have Western elites erred by veering away from righteous Judeo-Christian roots? And this is exactly what the current regime says that they're fighting. Okay, they want to protect the good Christian values. Those of you who followed the previous episodes, you know that we spent some time talking about Project 2025 and this document that was developed by ultra-right uh, folks in the US. Here, the person that you see in this slide, Russell Vaugh, and he's one of these folks who do the thinking for the group. And he is a self-described Christian nationalist, and he wrote a key chapter in the document and was confirmed by the Senate to lead the Office of Budget Management, which administers the 6.7 trillion federal budget. Yeah, lots of money, lots of power, and a clear ideology, what they set themselves out to do. Okay, they say there are four main policy aims. One, to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life. Okay? The family. Dismantle the administrative state, defend the nation's sovereignty and borders, thus ICE, and secure God given individual rights to live freely. I mean, again, clearly anchoring the regime's objectives in Judeo-Christianity, okay? In particular, white Christian nationalism. But isn't it ironic that these individuals who claim that their top, okay, policy aim is to restore the family as centerpiece of American life are the ones who are being accused of being pedophiles, breaking families, destroying young lives of vulnerable people, the most vulnerable among us, boys and girls. Well, the irony is, or the cynicism uh, is not new, as I will argue in the next slides. No, I think Epstein pedophiles merely reveal long camouflaged natural evil. So it's not a veering off or a departure from what was done before. Now, here you have a congressman in the US who posted this on Twitter, and it's very revealing because what he's telling us is that, you know, this is not some anonymous tip. This is a sworn testimony under penalty of perjury from someone who said Trump threatened to kill her if she exposed Epstein's sexual abuse. This was posted by the US congressman yesterday on Twitter. Okay, so this is unprecedented. I mean, we're talking here about members of the government uh, saying that this is not rumors, and this is from Representative Jim McGovern. So you can go on his Twitter page and you will see this. Outrageous as it may be, this is not new. The graphic that you've seen on the left, I've posted it before. This is to show how during centuries, the good Christian folks were kidnapping men, women, and children. They were raping them, they were murdering them, they were torturing them, they were making them work to death. Of course, yeah, they were doing so to Africans. Does that make it better? Uh, you know, the fact that today the victims are white children, does that make it worse? Or no, it was the same criminal behavior. And so, you know, someone was commenting on a piece that a liberal American wrote, you know, saying, this is not America. Unfortunately, it is, and it has always been. That's our contention. And so, of course, you might disagree, and I would be interested to hear your own argument. Another element to show here is that whether it is the elites in the United States or in England, as we saw in Norway, in France. They have consistently been on the wrong side in terms of their behavior. And so, in many discussions uh, related to the call for reparations, the long overdue reparations to the indigenous people of Africa and of the Americas, we often remind people that merchants of the slaving states who stole the lands, mineral resources, human beings, including the diamonds that you see in the current British Crown, forced unpaid labor of the indigenous peoples of Africa and of the Americas over several centuries, and who are yet to pay reparations for such heinous and barbaric crimes. Whether it is large banks like Wells Fargo, the Holy See Inc., or the Vatican, the British Crown, the Anglican Church, many others. These are legal entities that are still with us, enjoying impunity in 2026. So we're not talking about something in the past. We're not talking about old institutions that are no longer with us. They are still with us and they are still enjoying impunity and still think that they can ride for a few more centuries like that. And I think they're mistaken. I hope they are mistaken. That means uh, I hope that there are many of us who can dare use our imagination to think of and work for the emergence of another way of inhabiting the planet. The pictures that you see on either side of the royal couple, the British royal couple, on the left, it's Mother Teresa, who has been canonized. She became a saint, and she's there with the one of the most wicked women of Haitian history, Michelle Bennett, rendered infamous because she was so out of touch with reality that in a tropical country like Haiti, where I was born and raised, where it is usually, the coldest it gets there is 30 degrees Celsius. Okay. I mean, unless you go in some of the high places, mountains, it might be, 23, 24. That's like cold in Haiti. This woman, this fool, used to have parties in fur coats in Haiti. So she would go to Paris and buy expensive coats, made of animal skin and whatever, and invite her rich friends to go and parade in a cold room. And you know how much energy it would cost to keep a room cold in Haiti like that, a country that where the majority of the population was living in poverty. And so she was the good friend of Mother Teresa. And she wasn't the only dictator or dictator's wife who was close to Mother Teresa. In fact, many folks have written about who Mother Teresa really was and why she was given that role in the Judeo-Christianity Western civilization gang, because that's exactly how they behaved. And likewise, this is the Pope visiting with the dictator and his very expensive wife in Haiti back in 1983. So again, here there's no surprise, uh, and this is the natural order of things. And so, folks who are saying this is not America, this is not Europe, this is not our Christianity, no, as we've seen in the previous episodes, Christianity, although they took some of the principles of from the ancient Egyptians, the 77, or some say 42 confessions of Mahat that talk about leading a righteous life, and they condensed it into 10 commitments, etc., including you will not kill, you will not take your neighbor's wife. I mean, yeah, they said all of these things, but they stole, they killed, they murdered, they plundered, and it's not today. Like even in the Christian Bible, like we've shown you in this program over and over again, um, the God of Judeo-Christianity is not a good God. In our language, in Haitian Creole, we say bon Dieu, literally translated good God. And so it's an obligation for the God to be good. But I often point to fellow Haitians that actually, we're taking license in describing the people's deity. We're not the one who invented the thing, at least not in this current version of it. Uh, but the folks who created that God did not call it a good God. They call it a powerful God. And it is their God that is supposed to applaud and partake in everything that they're doing, including crimes, such as we see in Joshua 10, when Joshua sets his mind to go and take away from the Amalekites their territory. God participates in the crime by throwing hailstone on the people. So because the nightfall was arriving, so they didn't have enough time. So both God and Joshua were running out of time to commit their crime, and so he stopped the sun in its course so that have enough daylight, right, to murder the native people so that they could steal their land. It's not a coincidence that you find such ridiculous crimes, whether it is in the book of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, in the Bible, because the God that these people created for themselves was created in their image, with greed, with insecurities of all kinds. Um, and so it is a pathetic God, and therefore the there was always a deceiving nature in how they were presenting themselves to others and what their real aspirations and objectives are or were. And so we're saying this is not new, and it is not a departure. It is actually exactly uh, what their ancestors prescribed. And so you say, well, but what about the missionaries? Surely the missionaries do good, right? They help the impoverished people get better. Do they? So they've been helping people. Let's say, for instance, Oxfam, food for the poor, being in a country for 60 years, 70 years in some instances, and the people are still impoverished. They are still in need of someone else to bring food to them. Yet, this is a land that has all kinds of opportunities to grow their own food. What's going on here? Who is helping who? And so the scandal broke after the earthquake in Haiti that the director of Oxfam UK was caught in sexual activity with children and using the resources that were donated by truly generous people all around the world for the impoverished people of Haiti. And he was using that in order to gain sexual favors. Like, what do you call bastards like that? And what happened? Oh, he was never jailed. He was never even judged for that. He was just taken out of Haiti, flown out of the country, and he went back to Europe. Just like the church did when they found that some priests were spreading gonorrhea, syphilis on the colonies in the Caribbean. When they don't applaud them outright, they take them from this island and they move them to another island. They take them to the native people in Canada and they continue to spread gonorrhea, syphilis, and all these other things. No, it is not new. I'm sorry, I cannot participate in a lie. This is not a new phenomenon. And again, we keep on hearing the same refrain. For instance, when the other day the goons of Donald Trump murdered this brave woman, Nicole Good, and there was, outrage as there should have been. But a number of folks were saying, well, but this is not new. They've been killing black people like that in the United States nonstop. So when folks say that, does that mean then also then you don't value the bravery of Renee Nicole Good? No, of course it is valued and respected, and she should not have been killed. But what we need to realize is that all lives always mattered. So we don't need a movement to say Black Lives Matters and blah blah blah. Lives are supposed to matter, period. And they've been killing people in your face all of these centuries. And it is because we haven't done what is required of us to do, that a different segment of society who previously was sheltered, protected, had privilege, is also becoming vulnerable. And so someone was asking, where are all the white women? Because clearly the Epstein victims are mainly white women, right? And those questions were raised during the time of racial slavery as well, right? People were saying, well, how come white women are not standing up to say, put a stop to racial slavery? Well, you could argue then, well, that's because they're benefiting from it. And in fact, some white women were brutal enslavers who raped their slaves, male and female, adult and children. Okay, so, but what about now? The Epstein victims are white women. That's a problem if we are putting it in this fashion. We should be outraged when human rights are trampled upon, whether it is, pink skinned human beings who are so called white, or brown skinned humans who are so called blacks, Indian, or whatever. Humans, period. Whether it is in the United States, whether it is in Brazil, whether it is in Haiti, whether it is in Canada, it doesn't matter. We must stand in solidarity with each other and do the right thing. And so here, in the latest documents, they're pointing to the fact that Mother Teresa was very close to the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. And this man, who was also a Mossad um, spy, just like Jeffrey Epstein, he got, when he died, state funeral and all kinds of treatment that clearly shows that he was working for Israel the whole time. And these folks have been involved in using the same strategies that Jeffrey Epstein has used to approach world elite folks in politics, entertainment, etc., in order to get from them activities that will benefit his masters in Mossad. votes of budgets for Israel, all kinds of crazy things that Americans are now only waking up to, realizing that, wow, our country is not really under our control. And that's how it happened. Very few people believe that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, given that the guy was on suicide watch and supposedly had a previous attempt that wasn't successful. That doesn't happen. Okay. And then every week, we got a list of very pious white Christian nationalist pastors, the MAGA pastors, advisors to Donald Trump, who are caught in the crime as pedophiles. So all of this cannot be coincidental. Okay, there's just way too many coincidences. And so I would like to hear what you think. I would like to hear your point of view. I've expressed mine in several episodes before with regards to the concept of missionaries. My contention is that the NGOs in 2026 play exactly the same role that the missionaries played during colonial time. That is, the three M's work in tandem. The militaries, like the US ships that are currently in Haitian waters, the same ship, one of them apparently was used to kidnap President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, doing what they've been doing for centuries now, gunboat diplomacy. They show up at your harbor, they point their guns at you, and they demand whatever ransom. They take over the land, they murder scores of people. That's the militaries. The merchants come and they take. They take the gold, they take the lithium, they take the petroleum, they take the iridium, the uranium, whatever that they set their eyes on, then they call themselves merchants. And again, we talked about the habit of finding a nice sounding word or name to camouflage crimes committed by white supremacy. So, for instance, they talk about the transatlantic slave trade. So it was trade. They were just buying. No, it wasn't trade. Okay, you were kidnappers, murderers, and thieves, just as today in the waters of the Caribbean. That's what Donald Trump and his goons are doing. So the militaries, the merchants, and the third M, the missionaries, they each had their role to play. The missionaries break the native population's mental capacity to resist and reverse the situation. And all of these roles were and are important, whether the scene is the Caribbean in Barbados, whether it is the North, Nunavut, where the Inuit people were being destroyed, genocided by the British, or in northern Quebec by the French. It was the same strategy, whether it is in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa, in um, uh, Cameroon. And so at the 2018 conference on reparations in Venezuela, I raised the point that uh, we absolutely should never forget to add the third M when we're talking about the entities, the legal entities that must pay long overdue reparations. It's not just the corporations like Wells Fargo, the insurance companies, uh, the universities, right? Um, that have all kinds of skeletons in their closets. The fact that some of them actually use human skin to, to cover books I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. So, this whole idea of human sacrifices happening, this is not new unless you discount what happens to black people. Nothing here is new. That doesn't make it any less outrageous, unacceptable, criminal, barbaric. No, but it is insulting when it is being suggested that we are witnessing these things for the first time. Napoleon Bonaparte was the example for Adolf Hitler. Yes, as described in French author Claude Ribes' book, Le Crime de Napoléon. Okay, before they used the gas chambers in Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte was using ships where sulfur was being used to suffocate and murder hundreds of Africans at a time. They created expressions such as faire sauter le cul d'un nègre, described as such. They take a black man or a black woman and they shove inside of their sexual parts gunpowder and then they blow them up for fun, for sport, in front of their children, in front of the surviving family members of the folks that they've just murdered. Okay, so we need to have the courage to look at the true nature. So, what we're seeing in the Epstein files is nothing but a mirror, and it is an accurate mirror of Western civilization. Monstrous. No, you did not bring civilization to anybody. In fact, you rejected civilization wherever you went. And now our planet is in danger because many of the nations that are being seen, parading their weapons in this theater of warfare, they have nuclear weapons. We're dealing with fools. It is not what they say. They've used that weapon twice before, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So we would be foolish to trust them. We got to do something else, brothers and sisters. And so the last question I asked is, after all the saints have fallen, who shall serve as new moral guides in and or for the Western world? And perhaps we don't even need to add the Western world because really they have dominated so much of the planet in the last few centuries that honestly we need to really sit and look at that, right? I mean, in this program, I focus on religion, right? On the fact that much of that morality, so-called morality that we were told was important, whether it is, the Ten Commandments or the supposed Christian values or the values of Islam or Judaism, like they were presenting all morality, all ethics to be tied to these three Abrahamic religions. It was always bullshit. Has nothing to do with that. Whatever corner of the earth that you go, human beings know that it is wrong to kill each other. It is wrong to steal. All of these things were always understood. So you really never had the monopoly on ethics and morality. And so if now, by these so-called saints, like Mother Teresa and all of the Catholic saints, if you just do a little research to find out what these individuals did in their real life and the fakeness of the so-called miracles attributed to them. Like, I mean, there was, in the case of Teresa, um, there's a cameraman who exposed the fact that they were lying. They went into a room and they claimed that she brought light to the room magically. The guy saying they just used a new film. There was no miracle. But they lie. They just like they, take this cloth and they tell you there's the miracle face of white Jesus in there. And then people are wasting money going to go and visit these places. And, so once that's crumbled, as someone asked me after publication of my book, Vive Bon Dia about religion in the Haitian community, say, okay, Jean, so uh, you you've convinced me that Judeo-Christianity was based on fallacy and all kinds of crap. Um, they invented the words that they attributed to God in their book, which was compiled in 1546 at the Council of Trent, uh, where a whole bunch of white men voted. Okay, so it's not credible, and not to add about King James, who he was and why he shouldn't be trusted. Okay, so what then? You left us empty. If not Christianity, then what do we embrace? And again, um, I I'm still mindful that most of my compatriots are not satisfied with my only truthful answer to the question. You don't need anything. You don't need to replace lies with other lies. We're fine without the thing. We don't need anything to replace it with. It wasn't filling any void, like I said, with regards to ethics and morality and all of that. We have all of that already. All societies, humanity has been transmitting values to each other as we've experienced life on this planet for centuries. You don't need a whole bunch of old white men in robes in Rome or in any other city for that matter, whether it is Catholic or Protestant or Judaism or Islam, to tell you what to do and what not to do, especially when they're basing those ideas on antiquated ideas that are from men who were totally backward, lacking of science and all kinds of basic knowledge. It doesn't make sense. So you don't need to replace it with anything. And so what I'm proposing is that after all of those scents have fallen, we will be just fine. And perhaps we need to, rather than looking for these titles of individuals, use our common sense so that we can judge people by how they behave rather than the fact that they're wearing a robe and they speak you know with a soft tone and all of that. We've lived enough to realize that this is not it. And as for the guys who are still in those religions and who are doing good work, well, continue to do the good work. But don't pretend that whatever good work that you're doing is because of the superstition. It has nothing to do with it. We have enough experience with that by now. Okay, so if anybody is interested, we have a few minutes, not a lot, but just a few minutes, where you can dial the number, which is showing up at the bottom of the screen. Let's see, I'm seeing the Haitian Creole version. Let me look for the English version here. It's 613-482-2549, 613-482-2549, and use WhatsApp, and I'll be more than happy to take your call and let's see what we can share in terms of reflection on what we're talking about here. I think, you know, we are going to see turmoil in the coming years uh, because we are talking about serious disruption. We have so many of the folks here that are uh, exposed by the Epstein scandal that it will be difficult to simply go on business as usual. As I've said for many years now, at the political level, uh, it is obvious that the duopoly that they have in the United States, where you have only the choice of a Democrat or a Republican to become president of the United States, this is a recipe for disaster because it's clear that the elites leading each of these parties are corrupt beyond redemption. There's nothing you can do. So, the emergence of third parties, whether it is in the United States and we've witnessed it as well in Canada, um, it is going to be necessary. You have to uh, have new elites, new role models, uh, because the bluff will not be sustained. I have not mentioned entertainment, but there also many have realized that no, the folks who, with their lyrics, have entertained us can in no way espouse high ideals as we once had with folks like Nina Simone, okay, who was not just a jazz artist, but who was really a true revolutionary, or Miriam Makeba, strong anti-apartheid, soldier. No, we need to get back to a new reality, and definitely religion cannot be um, the moral compass for us. Of course, I have limited my comments to Christianity because this is the realm that I am more familiar with. But I think you can see why much of this is applicable to the other superstitions, including the other Abrahamic superstitions. Okay, a few comments here from the web. Brother Kareth said, today is the anniversary of the murder of Amadou Diallo by New York City Police. Yes, indeed. Thank you for the reminder, Brother Carrick. Amadou Diallo, 41 bullets. Again, you see what the brother said? It's the anniversary. Now, what year was that again? If you can remind me, brother. This is not new. None of these killings by police officers, the children sacrificed, as the senator was saying, involving the current president of the United States. Come on, this is absolutely problematic. Thank you, brother. 1999, Amadou Diallo. That's 27 years. And so, thank you very much, everyone, for joining tonight. And I remind those of you who are of Haitian origin and who speak Haitian Creole, we have a program on Sundays at noon, Cause Nefta Cause Fre, and we have a Haitian guest every week to help us decipher what is going on in our homeland. And this coming Sunday, we have Brother Dahoud Andre. As you know, Dahoud is a staunch, fighter with Komokoda, the committee that mobilizes against dictatorship in Haiti, Comité Mobilisation contre Dictature en Haïti, who hold regular demonstrations in New York, especially in front of the offices of Bill and Hillary Clinton, because they embezzled billions of dollars of recovery funds for Haiti after the earthquake in 2010. And so Daoud Andre is going to be with us this coming Sunday. And of course, we will take a look at what's happening not only in Haiti these days, but around the world. Thank you very much, everyone. And we hope that this program has brought some good stuff to you. And we'll see you next week.
Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home. For it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites.
Jésus, par ton sang précieux, enlève mon iniquité. Regarde-moi sur les cieux, dis-moi que tu m'as pardonné. J'ai longtemps erré que rebelle, mais j'entends ta voix qui m'appelle. Au pied de ta croix maintenant, tout confus, brisé, je me rends. Blanc, plus blanc que neige, blanc, plus blanc que neige, lavé dans le sang de l'agneau, je serai plus blanc que la neige.
Now go, attack the Amalekites, and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. 1 Samuel 15.